everyone, welcome back to another Dark Souls beginner walkthrough video. So last time we went ahead and defeated Nito, cleared out Tomb of the Giants, or at least that's what I did. But by this point you should have your fourth lord defeated, hopefully. You don't have to really to do the DLC, but it helps to have all four of those done. That way you're as strong as you possibly can be for this DLC, because it is designed to punish you and make you die a lot. It's supposed to be the hardest part of Dark Souls 1, so keep in mind that you're probably going to want to be as strong as you possibly can. You can technically do the DLC as early as when you get the Lord Vessel and place it. You can go into Duke's Archives and get the pendant that you need to get in there, and you don't even have to defeat any of the lords to go ahead. But, I would advise you be as strong as you possibly can be, because it's going to be probably pretty difficult for you. So, what I'm doing now is I went ahead and upgraded my Estus Flask to +5, because also in the last video I killed Gwendolyn, and by betraying the Blades of Darkmoon / killing Guinevere / killing Gwendolyn, the Firekeeper in Anor Londo gets pissed at you and she'll attack you. You kill her, you get a Firekeeper soul, which you can then use to upgrade your flask. So I went ahead and did that down here, and in my Lost Izalith video I explained that if you get Kirk to invade you twice down there, and the one time in the depths, if he invades and you kill him all 3 times, then his armor will show up. I was going to show that, but I forgot. So his armor shows up here, and you pick it up. You should have his sword and his shield. He drops those. You don't get that from the armor. And his sword swings pretty fast. It's a straight sword. It says it does thrusting damage, which I'm not actually entirely sure if that's thrusting damage even though it slashes, or if that's just a typo. But it's pretty cool. It causes bleeding. It's a straight sword, so it's pretty handy to have sometimes. A lot of people in PvP will use Kirk's stuff because it causes the bleeding. His armor, you can roll into people and it'll cause damage, cause bleeding to them. So it's pretty cool. It's a unique armor set that you can't get anywhere else other than by killing him 3 times from his 3 invasions. So I would suggest you check it out and see if you like it. You can see also that his shield has a shield bash instead of a parry, which can be a little off-putting for some people if they depend on parrying for PvP especially. But, you know, like I said, try it out, and, you know, you can only really determine if you like an armor set by wearing it and seeing if you like what it offers. So I'm going to split this video into 2 parts, but it's going to be like really quick. There's going to be no pauses and no breaks really. It's going to be like, first part, the video will abruptly end at a part, and then it'll immediately start back where we left off. No introduction, just like the Catacomb Sen's Fortress videos. So that's kind of the idea with this one. So if you remember, when you first enter the DLC, you're going to immediately hit a fog wall, and that is another boss fight. This one is called the Sanctuary Guardian, and it's a pretty fun fight in my opinion, but you're going to want to have some lightning defense. Now this boss does have a tail cut off weapon. It's actually a whip that does poison, which is pretty cool. And if you don't get it during this fight, you will have the opportunity to try and get it later with 2 of them that are not quite as strong, but there's 2 of them in this area, but that'll be for later. So I'm going to focus on trying to get the tail, because I feel like it's easier to do it with the boss fight. Because you basically have to wait for a couple of attacks that will leave him open so that you can get to his tail. He's not very tough for the first boss. He's pretty much just a checkpoint, like, hey, are you strong enough to even get into this DLC? Because they don't want you doing it too early. And And so he's kind of just there to keep you out until you're stronger. Although this boss is followed by another boss really shortly after. Like, you don't have to go through much of the DLC to get there, and that boss is a lot harder. So anyway, with him, he's just gonna focus on these lightning attacks. The big fast orbs of lightning, I find it's a lot easier just to roll sideways to dodge those. So what you're looking for if you're trying to get the tail is that flying swoop. You just roll right or left, he should miss you, and then you can go for the tail. But as you saw with me, there's fallen wood and stuff in the lake here, or in the, it's not really a lake, small little watery pond thing. It's kind of hard to get to him sometimes because of these obstacles. They're in your way, and it makes the arena kind of annoying because you go to run away somewhere and you get stuck. So a lot of these attacks can be dodged by rolling sideways. Here's another dodge to the side. It shouldn't take that many hits at this point. You can see a few sword hits on him right now for me, and he's almost half dead. I mean, that's pretty crazy. He doesn't have a ton of health. He's just kind of chaotic. He flies and does this lightning thing, and so really just don't be too afraid of it. For that flying attack where he shoots lightning straight down, I find rolling backwards is best. And with that attack, you can block that, you can roll sideways and he'll miss. He does do a chain melee attack like this, but he does it for a lot longer. I don't know if I actually get him to do that in this fight. I don't think so. And there's another headbutt. You just go ahead and hit him a few times. Once you got his tail, you don't really need to worry about your opening. And so the little wing air attack there is meant to stagger you. You can roll out of the way there. Here's another lightning straight down, roll backwards. There's another one. If he does the rapid shot, where it's like 3 or 5 smaller lightning bolts, then you can just sprint right or left to dodge those. Here's another flying charge. Gives you time to get over here. And that's that. He's not too difficult, really. If I remember correctly, you don't actually make anything with his soul. They just give it to you. So I guess you could probably consume that, but I would check online before. And that's your first boss fight. Like I said, he's more of a thing just to like, hey, are you ready to do this DLC? Because your boss fights are going to be different like that. For him, he's very fast, can fly around, does lightning. Those are typically things you don't see in your boss fights. Later, we'll get into another boss who kind of has a rage phase, where he does more damage and attacks more rapidly while he's fighting you and stuff. So that's kind of a different type of boss fight. We'll fight a dragon in this, and we'll also fight another dude who has kind of a weakness, not really a weakness, but there's an item that you can pick up that allows you to make his fight a lot easier. It's basically like a deflecting phase. It's pretty cool. So they're all different fights in some way. So this bonfire here, Oolacile Sanctuary, you're going to want to kindle, because this is going to be your closest bonfire to the next boss fight. And he's a lot tougher than the Sanctuary Guardian, so I would kindle that so that you have max flasks when you're running through here.
One. From what faraway age hast thou come? Thy scent is very human indeed, but not intolerable. Ah, Princess Dusk's savior. Thine aura is precisely as she described. I thank thee deeply for rescuing Her Highness. But Princess Dusk is here no longer, snatched away by that horrifying primeval human. And so I must ask, couldst thou once more play the savior? Thank you. I am Elizabeth, guardian of this sanctuary. Something of a godmother to Princess Dusk. I shall assist thee to my utmost, for I am one with the sorceries of Oolacile.
So, Elizabeth, she will teach you the sorceries that Dusk will teach you if you haven't learned them from Dusk. So this is your chance, just in case Dusk went away before you could get to her. You can now buy the sorceries I
Thou shalt
bought.
see further on, an abyss was begat of the ancient beast, and threatens to swallow the whole of Oolacile. Knight Artorius came to stop this, but such a hero has nary a murmur of dark. Without doubt he will be swallowed by the abyss, overcome by its utter blackness. Indeed, the abyss may be unstoppable. Still, I have faith that Princess Dusk may be rescued yet. Thou shalt see and still.
So she asks you to go rescue Dusk, because Dusk has now been taken by some sort of beast thing. The same thing that let you into the DLC has taken her. And she mentions that Knight Artorius has gone and tried to stop the spreading of the abyss, which is all coming from this beast thing. So basically, he's trying to kill this beast thing, but he has to get to it first. And so, we're gonna run into him later, and we'll be able to kind of see what's going on around here. She mentions that you'll see the abyss spreading later on over here, which you'll be able to notice, like, the land will be all kind of corrupted. So you might be a little confused if you've been following the story here. You're probably thinking, like, hey, wait a minute, Artorius went and did that whole abyss thing, like, a while ago, and he's dead. We went to his grave and fought Sif. And if you look around, you can see, like, this bridge might look a little familiar. This kind of foresty area might look a little familiar. That's because the DLC has actually traveled you back in the past, and we'll be able to confirm this in a little bit when we meet a guy who also mentions that he's from a different time, and he got snagged back here, and now he's in the past. You can kind of look around here and see how it sort of looks the same as Darkroot Garden. This would kind of be where the mushroom people are running around, and if you went further that way, you'd get towards sort of where the Hydra is and those weird cat things if you keep going this way. Now, the garden here is, or Royal Wood, it's not the Darkroot Garden, this is Royal Wood. It's filled with these stone guardian dudes and some, like, tree guys with pitchforks, and there'll be tree guys later with, like, some shears and stuff. It's basically the equivalent to the tree people in Darkroot Garden and the stone knights or stone soldiers or whatever in Darkroot Garden as well that have the swords and the shields. That's basically what these guys are. In fact, if you look at the Guardian armor, or the Guardian in general, and then you go look at those stone soldier people in Darkroot Garden, you'll notice that it's like an older, mossier, kind of broken armor version of them. And that's just another thing to kind of show that we're back in the past right now, so things are a little newer, not as kind of rotted away or whatever as they are in the current world. Like, here's this pretty cool, like, Colosseum looking thing. That's not in Darkroot Garden. If you look over here by this light, there's nothing around this tower, but if you look kind of near this tower, you can kind of imagine this would be like the tower you would run up to go to Alvina. This is like going backwards from Sif's boss fight to the cat and the forest hunters. So you would go back this way, and there would be a door and a bridge. So it's just kind of cool. But here we picked up the Guardian gauntlets, and that's one of 4 pieces of the armor, and you pick up the armor. It doesn't drop from the guardians themselves, so you have to go around and find very specific spots where they put the armor. Honestly, when going through here, I recommend that you just kind of run through past all these guys. Not that you can't kill the stone guardians, but they really don't drop anything, and these tree guys really don't drop anything. So it's probably better to just avoid them, because all you're really going to want is to pick up the guardian armor in here, and you're probably going to want to just get the shortcut unlocked so you can get past this area. It takes a little while to get through this garden if you're going to fight normally, but you can totally fight if you want. It's going to be kind of a long run to get all the pieces and shortcuts and stuff, so just sort of pay attention and you should be fine. There's nothing over here. I'm just showing you more of the garden. You want to get to this orange flower area though, or yellow, depending on how the light looks. Here you can fight some dudes. I'm gonna, I guess, fight these guys. I wasn't going to, but then I kind of got to a point where there's so many of them, I'd get killed if I tried to go for the armor right now. So I'm just gonna try and fight these dudes and take this kind of slower and safer. And these guardian guys, they do a lot of damage. That probably shouldn't have hit me, but it did. But yeah, these guys are kind of annoying. That's why I kind of don't recommend you go through here. Granted, I ran through and kind of attracted some unwanted attention, but yeah, I sort of don't recommend that you stop and fight if you don't have to. For me, I was too busy showing part of the woods that I kind of got distracted and had these guys catch up. Alright, so we're actually back to where the armor is. This one's guarding the leggings, so you either want to distract him or do whatever you gotta do to grab them, or just kill him. It's not really a big deal, but find some way to hopefully get it safely, because these guys can really kill you pretty darn quick if you're not careful. You can see they don't take a lot of damage, they just have a lot of armor. And that's kind of like the other stone soldiers in the Darkroot Garden. They have a lot of armor, don't take much damage, but they have less health. These guys have more health because it's a higher level area, and all of that. I think if you wanted to fight the Stone Guardians, magic might be the best choice. I'm not certain though. I don't really know what their resistances are, but probably fire is not a good idea. They could just be resistant to everything, in which case magic is still the best option because sorcery allows you to have like multiple castings of weak spells, and pyromancy and miracles don't really let you do that. So that pretty awesome dragon right there is the dragon you're gonna fight for this DLC. Just not right now. Pretty much not anytime real soon. We'll do it after we go into Oolacile Township, which is the next area, but we have to defeat a boss before we can even go there. And so we still got a ways to go before we go and battle him. and I will show you how to get him to a good spot, how to fight him easier, and all of that later. So now that we're in this area, you can notice that there's like this goo on the ground, and you can see the ground kind of rotting away. That's the abyss that's spreading and kind of taking over the land, and that's what Oolacile is trying to get rid of. That's what Artorias is trying to stop. He's trying to go find the source and eliminate it. That way it stops doing what it's doing, otherwise the land will kind of just wither away. And so that's his quest that he's on right now. So we want to go over here to the right. And we're actually close to a shortcut, but I'm not going to go to the shortcut yet. If you want the shortcut, you would go up and to the right of where we were headed. There's a tower, and there's an elevator you take, and that'll take you down towards actually the boss. And then near the boss, there's another shortcut that takes you up to the tower where we got the gauntlets. So, really, you might want to go that way if you're worried about dying. We're not too far from the other armor pieces, so I want to go get those before I do that. Soul of a Brave Warrior. That's pretty good to have. In this crevice over here, you can just hop down, but always check before you're falling. Sometimes there's holes in the ground, and you don't want to fall into a hole in the ground. So this crevice here has an Elizabeth mushroom, which just fully restores your health and cures you of status effects. I think it basically works like a divine blessing. It might be like restore health over time. In the later games it restores health over time, but I don't remember what it is in this game. Again, check for the holes in the ground. You don't want to fall. It's really annoying if you fall and die, because then you have to come all the way back here. If you go that way and jump the gap, you'll go back towards the tower, sort of, with the shortcut. But what you want to do is watch for this hole and run and jump across this gap. If you don't make that, you die. There's no saving it, unfortunately. And you get the Guardian Helm, and we're really close to the chest piece. Just gotta run kind of along this edge here. Now this edge would be sort of where you would overlook and you could see the Hydra. It'd also be where you get the Eastern armor if you're in Darkroot Garden, if you can kind of picture that. I'm trying to show connections between the two, that way you can get a better idea of what it's like, kind of where we're traveling from. Because it's pretty cool, if you can see the connection, you can travel through here and you'd be like, oh yeah, I remember this area. Except these stone guardians aren't over there. So that's the other thing, is that some of the stone guardians have moved in Darkroot Garden. They're not in the same spot as they are over here. So you might be like, oh, I don't remember those stone guys before. Yeah, they're not over here, but they are in the DLC. And so there's the Guardian armor. If you're wondering why I'm glowing red, that's Power Within. I haven't used it, but I thought I might use it because I really haven't been using my pyromancy. And Power Within's just going to increase your damage, but it also drains your health over time, kind of like if you were intoxicated. And so it's a risk-reward thing. I don't do that much damage, like extra with Power Within, but it was enough to kill that Stone Guardian a little easier. Just watch your health if you use it, and try not to use it in very high-intensity battles, because you can die really easy if you're not paying attention. And so now we're about done with this garden area. This object over here is actually a gold coin, and if you grab it, these dudes with the shears will actually get pissed and come after you. So it's kind of like the one item in Darkroot Garden. I said, hey, don't pick that up, otherwise you're going to have to deal with some tree people. It's kind of the same thing. I'm gonna grab it just because I'm already being chased by these guardian dudes. I might as well just go ahead and grab the item. I don't know when I grab it, but I do grab it pretty shortly here. I think it's after I get the shortcut, just in case I did die. So this tower has an elevator. You go down it. You're going to see the boss fog immediately. There's an item back here. If you were to continue down this way, you'd actually find calamite, but you don't want to go that way yet. There's the boss fog. So I guess if you're feeling kind of ballsy, you can do the boss right now. I wouldn't. What you should do is go over here towards this candlestick and talk to this guy.
Let me guess. Snatched by a shadowy limb and dragged off to the past? Yes, of course. Exactly what happened to me. We are both strangers in this strange land. But at least now there are two of us.
So this is Marvellous Chester, and he's got some stuff that he'll sell you, but it's kind of expensive. Like, a lot of the stuff he sells is way overpriced. Feather arrows are like twice as much.
Did you happen across Knight Artorias? The legendary abyss walker from the old tales? Well, if you haven't, it's just as well. He's a colorless sort, if you ask me. So, what did that giant mushroom make you do? Not that I care. It's none of my business. I've little to talk about, really. Oh, you know me. What do I know?
So he doesn't say much right now. He does say a little bit about Artorias, asks if we've ran into him, and that's kind of your way of knowing that Artorias is in this DLC. I already mentioned that he is, but you could hear him say that, you'd be like, oh man, Artorias is in here. That's cool. And then he talks about Elizabeth a little bit and says, oh, what did she make you do? So that kind of implies that she sent him on a little journey. Maybe he also got dragged away and she said, you know, hey, rescue Dusk. But in our case, she's like, oh, Dusk, you know, mentions that you were the person that saved her before. I'm going to ask you to save her again. So maybe she asked him to do the same thing, he just doesn't care. It is kind of cool to note, though, if you look at him, he says he's from a different time period and he was dragged back to the past. If you've played Bloodborne, then you'll kind of note that he looks a lot like a Bloodborne style character. And that's pretty cool. It almost kind of makes you wonder if they had in mind a Bloodborne style game all the way back when they were making Dark Souls 1, or if they decided to make Bloodborne based off of that guy, sort of. Go like, oh man, we've seen this guy before, he's kind of cool, people liked him, maybe we make a game around that. So it's just kind of cool. I like to think about that stuff sometimes when I play these games. So I'm going ahead and just speeding this up, because nobody wants to watch me run through the forest at normal speed if I can just speed it up. So really, I'm speeding this up and not cutting it out, just because I want to show you the path that you can take to the shortcut. With very minimal enemies to deal with. Just try not to lose too much health. If you do, you can always pop a humanity, and that'll fully heal you instead of using a flask, so that you have one for this boss fight. And the other thing I'm going to show is the Guardian armor. I don't know why I backed out there, other than maybe I thought I was going to cut the video, but I didn't cut it, so anyway. Guardian armor versus stone armor. Pretty much the same stats, same story. It's just it tells about how the Guardians are stone golems that are infused with magic, brought to life with magic. And you can see the difference. The stone helm and the Guardian helm kind of look the same, except the Guardian helm is more complete and the stone helm isn't. In terms of stats, the armors aren't that much different. They weigh a little bit different and have different stats slightly, depending on which one you choose. So really, it doesn't matter. As long as you can wear one of the armors, you can pretty much wear both. I'm not certain if the Guardian armor can be reinforced to be stronger, but I know the stone armor can't. So anyway, this is your next boss, and he's going to be kind of difficult. So just make sure you have your healing stuff and you're prepared to fight. And so now we're actually going to fight Knight Artorias. The first thing you're going to notice is he's very aggressive. He does a lot of slashing, a lot of spinning, a lot of jumping, a lot of really cool maneuvers. It's going to be reminiscent of Sif, because Sif kind of steals the movesets from Artorias. It's just a callback that's pretty cool. Being that Sif was his guard dog and stuff, he would kind of learn sword moves from Artorias. So the biggest thing you're going to have to worry about is that you don't do a lot of damage versus him, and he can do a lot of damage to you. He also has pretty good poise, although not unbreakable. If you have a heavy enough weapon like Zweihander, I think I ran in here with Zweihander or the Claymore upgraded one time on a heavy character, and I could stagger him and stun lock him to death. So if you're a heavy character with a lot of armor and a lot of health, and a heavy weapon that does a lot of poise damage, that might actually be better. Now the thing about him is when he takes some damage, he's going to do this power-up thing. And if you can stagger him, you can actually stagger him during that power-up phase and he won't get stronger. Now when he does the power-up phase, he gets more aggressive, he does more damage, and I don't think he takes less damage, but he's just harder in general. It's where a lot of people start to die, is they get to that point. It's already hard to keep up with him, and now he's got this other phase that makes him do more damage. Just because he's on the other end of the room doesn't mean you're safe. Like most bosses, they have some sort of leaping attack. Artorias does too, and so you gotta be really careful about when you heal. Only after certain moves can you really make the healing move. His buff doesn't last forever. He'll rebuff, though, sometimes, so just be careful. Really, this fight is going to be difficult. This is one of the most difficult fights in the DLC. It's probably still the most difficult fight for some in this DLC, because the later bosses aren't too difficult once you know how to beat them, but Artorias can pretty much always be difficult. I mean, every boss you play has a chance of being easy if you play them enough. But Artorias still gets people sometimes, so it's pretty cool. Artorias is a very cool fight in this DLC. And he's the real checkpoint. You do the Sanctuary Guardian, you're like, oh, this isn't bad. You go through the forest, you're like, ah, this isn't bad. Then you run into Artorias, and a lot of people sometimes just kind of stop here for a while, because he can be difficult. Really, my strategy to him is either stun lock him, or just watch his movesets and find a good time to attack. Dodging is going to be really hard unless you're a light armor character. There are very clear moves, though, where you know you're going to be able to move out of the way. Like that thrusting attack, the timing's a little weird, but you should be able to move out of the way of most, if not all, the damage. That double spin is kind of annoying. Sometimes you're just going to get hit by that. And when he takes his time to power up, you take your time to heal, do whatever you need to do. Maybe buff your weapon if you need to. You can do more damage that way. He does those jumping slams where he spins in midair, does like a somersault in midair. He does a really far leaping attack sometimes. He does that thrust. Those are all pretty good times to dodge and possibly heal if you dodge correctly. If you don't, you often find yourself stuck in a position of like 2 bars, like I am. So you just kind of have to take it easy. Don't rush it. Just know when you can or can't heal. And sometimes it's risky, but sometimes you just gotta take the risk in this fight. If you have 20 flasks, you might actually just be able to out-flask him. Just might be able to dodge enough, just to the point where you can heal more than he can damage you. But it's a pretty difficult fight. Just take it easy, try to stay calm. Watch out for that attack. That one's pretty easily dodged, although I was in the middle of healing. But if you get that one when you're not doing something, that actually isn't too bad to dodge. Really, a medium roll character or a heavy roll character, you're going to suffer a lot in this fight just because he's so fast. If you can get a light roll, that's good. If you can stagger him, that's good. But kind of my character really isn't the best character to battle him. And in terms of magic and stuff, I think your best bet would probably be either lightning or sorcery. Pyromancy probably isn't the best to go with on this fight. So, you know, it's just a difficult fight. If you're casting spells, you'll often get hit while you're casting, and that can be a problem when battling him since he does a lot of damage. I'm going to do Fireball here. I don't even think I hurt him, so I'm not going to do that anymore. And really just maintain. I mean, I'm not the best at this fight, and in later game cycles, I'd probably die if I tried using this character. So if you're struggling with your guy, you can always go back. You can always go to like Anne Orlando or something, buy upgrade materials, and you can make your character a little different. Pick out a heavy weapon, upgrade some light armor, do whatever you gotta do to make this fight a little easier for you. So you can just kind of see what kinds of moves should be dodged. And you should avoid hitting him even though it looks like he's open sometimes. Like if he does the thrust, don't immediately attack him because he'll do a spin sometimes. And sometimes he won't. So really, it's a risk. This fight's a big risk of when to attack. It's pretty fun though. Dodge. Dodge again. Sometimes he does a third, so be ready for a third. There we go. And Artorias is down. And you'll notice, actually, that his soul is a black soul, which is kind of cool because it shows that he fell to the abyss. And likewise, with his soul, you can make the Abyss Greatsword, which is another thing that shows that he fell to the abyss. And it's really cool, the kinds of stuff that they show in this game to represent the story. They've already told you that he falls to the abyss, or at least they show you. Now they're just showing you more with souls and stuff. The other interesting thing about this DLC is that you meet the remaining Knights of Gwyn. So we fought Ornstein for Ornstein and Smo. We just fought Artorias. We're going to actually meet the Lord's Blade, the owner of the Hornet Ring. Her name's Kieran. And you're going to meet Hawkeye Go, or Goff. I think it's Goff. And you're going to meet him. He owns the Hawk Ring, and he was the archer character. So you're going to meet all 4 of them in some way during this entire game, which is pretty cool. You get to see each owner of the rings that they had and, you know, what they used and why the rings symbolize them. That little cut there was just because I took a small break, so don't let that glitch kind of bother you. So now we're running through Oolacile Township, and you're going to be able to see the little city that they had here, and, you know, kind of see what happens to them because of the Abyss. You can see that these guys are all mutated. It's not what normal people from Oolacile should look like, because Dusk was their, like, princess, and she didn't look anything like that. So you can see that they've been kind of corrupted. And if you look down, like straight down, it's like a black abyss down there. There's really, you don't like fall to a lower part of the city, it just kind of vanishes. Or it's covered in darkness. You're also going to encounter these sorcerers here with dark sorcery. And if you're a sorcerer character, you can actually get into dark sorcery. And if you use pyromancy, you can get a dark pyromancy, kind of. It's called the Black Flame, and it's pretty good too. Unfortunately for clerics, there's really nothing for miracles in this. So, unfortunately, that's just something you'll have to deal with. Now, if you're human and you kind of go near these stairs, Marvellous Chester will invade you. And he's a cool invader because he does some different moves. He's got like a splitting throwing knife. He's got this crossbow. He can load this crossbow pretty fast. And really, he's just overall different. He has different movesets. He does like a low sweeping kick instead of a normal like melee attack. There's his jump backwards. It's just kind of cool. He's a different type of invader. If you kill his invader form, then he'll still talk to you when you go see him. If you go look for him outside of Artorias' boss room, he'll still talk to you. He'll just be kind of annoyed. He'll be like, oh, it's you. Like, why are you here? Kind of like, hey, I know I tried to invade you. Obviously, I don't like you for some reason. Or you beat me and he's jealous of it or whatever. And you're just kind of rubbing it in his face. But he'll still sell you stuff. But again, his stuff is pretty expensive anyway, so you can kill him if you decide, hey, look, if his stuff's expensive and I can get it somewhere else, just kill him, and you can get his armor set if that interests you. So, that's something you can do too if you want. Now, I put on the sunlight maggot here because there's actually an illusion wall around this corner. I'm going to avoid that crystal lizard. But there's an illusion wall right here, and it's not triggered by hitting it. It's triggered by light, which is weird. They added a light illusion wall, and it's only really for this one area. And inside this chest, you get the silver pendant, which is a really, really useful item in this DLC, especially versus the final boss. You're going to be using this a lot to help you. There's also those dark wizards and stuff. They can do dark sorcery, and this silver pendant creates that light barrier, and that sorcery can't penetrate that. It actually deflects dark sorcery, and that's really cool. It's a different and unique addition to this DLC that is just really cool. It's different from the base game. You haven't really done anything like it. You can test it here on these sorcerers. You can see that their stuff just can't hit me. And you can cast it really fast, it just doesn't last very long. And dark sorcery will do a lot of damage to you, especially if you don't have really good defenses. So it comes in handy a lot. And in here you'll get Dark Orb, which is your first dark sorcery that you can have. And that's pretty cool for sorcerers. That doesn't go anywhere. And dark sorcery, I don't think requires a lot of intelligence or anything to use. So you really shouldn't have too much of an issue if you're a sorcerer. Just have, you know, somewhere in the 20s, I'd say. And that sorcerer there, he drops a carving, which really it's more meant for like PvP or co-op. You can drop this carving and it'll play an audible I'm sorry or, you know, thank you or whatever carvings you end up finding. There's one for thank you, I'm sorry, very good. There's a few more and stuff. you can drop these and it'll play an audible person saying that. And people sometimes use that in PvP. They'll kill you and then they'll drop, "I'm sorry." And it's just kind of fun. It's like a gesture, but with a voice. So, it's nothing really too special. We'll get to a guy who sells a couple. So anyway, once you've kind of gotten past that, you probably don't need the Sunlight Magadon. I don't remember when I take it off, but I do take it off eventually. Actually, right now. Huh. And now we'll continue down this way. If you have Lloyd's Talismans, again, remember you can throw them at a Mimic and make the Mimic open up. This chest here is a Mimic. You only have to be close. Very good carving. So there you go. There's another carving for you. We just gotta continue down this way. Watch for more of these, like, bloated head guys. They can actually ambush you, like that guy's around the corner. There's also a sorcerer down the way here, and he can do a lot of damage if you're not paying attention. Your silver pendant here comes in handy, but you can also just roll to dodge that. Really, for me, he didn't do that much. He decided to try and do a melee for some reason, which is weird. But once you get to this point, you're actually close, sort of, to a shortcut. So we'll kill this guy. You can see that their eyes are glowing red and stuff. And here's more Abyss corruption. Rubbish. Don't need it. Here's another dude. And now, going down these stairs, if you look down, you can actually see that there's a sorcerer and stuff. If you run and jump, you can get that sorcerer pretty easy. You can also kill this guy. And check for more hollow dudes. You can shoot them in the head with arrows and stuff. These guys just do a lot of damage. They don't have a lot of health themselves. So find either the safest or easiest way to battle these guys, and you should be fine. You don't really want to die at this point though, because there's a lot of stuff you'd have to go through. You're not too far from a shortcut. If you're worried about that, you can just kind of watch for now, and then go ahead and get to the shortcut when I get to that point. I'm going to grab the items around here though. That way I don't really have to come back here. Although, now that I think about it, I think I missed an item. I missed like a room and an item. So I'll have to come back and do that. But, yeah. Another Mimic here, you can see. So if you have another Lloyd's Talisman, go ahead and use it for safety reasons. And that key we just got is actually going to unlock the way to Hawkeye Goth, who's locked in his own separate tower where we fought Artorias, sort of. You're going to notice a couple glitches, because that one, my game crashed for some reason, so I trimmed it. And this here, I kill that guy and I go to hit this rope, and I end up falling for some reason. And I didn't think about shooting the rope, and so I tried to run back and get it, but I kept falling and couldn't make a jump. So I trimmed it again, because nobody wants to see me miss the same jump like 8 times in a row. And even though you should just jump down to get the item, that'd probably be the quickest way. There's also another item around here if you fall down up here. Go around the back. Go down this way. Twin humanities, that's always nice. Then you can drop down on this peak here, drop down again. And here you get Dark Fog, which is another dark sorcery, except in this case, it does poisoning. So you cast it, it creates a poison cloud. It's like poison mist, except it's a sorcery. And now we should pretty much be good to go. So, over here to the right is your shortcut up to Oolacile Township, that bonfire. You're going to want this. Saves you a lot of running. You hear all the screams in the background. It's kind of creepy. And back up here is our bonfire. It's a good spot to level up and stuff. Repair your equipment, maybe. You can see some dude dancing up there, putting messages on the railing. And now, if you don't want to fight all these guys, you should just be able to run over here quickly, get on the elevator, it'll take you down pretty quick, and now those guys shouldn't be able to get you. If they do try to fall down after you, they usually fall and die. So, it shouldn't be too much of an issue for you. And now from here, if you have a bow, it really helps, because you can shoot these guys from back here, which makes your job a lot easier. Because if you try running up there with melee, the sorcerers target you, and then there's a few normal dudes who melee you down there, and it can get really hectic really quick. So you might want to pull out a bow and shoot the sorcerers or shoot the other guys if you can. There's another guy yet. Actually, I think there's 2 more guys. Yeah, there's 2 more. But these guys, not too difficult. We fought these guys plenty of times by now, so it really shouldn't be too much of an issue. Check for items around this area. I think I might have missed one. I know I missed another one, so I'll have to go back and get that in the next video. And the end of part 1 is coming up here. This guy here, he's kind of a pain to battle, so I'm not gonna battle him. The downside to doing that is that he tends to catch up with you, and this elevator takes a long time to get up here. So watch out, try not to fall. If you do fall, you're not too far from the shortcut, so hopefully that's not too bad. But once you get down here, they'll fall or something, or they'll just stop following you. And here's another bonfire. This one is also warpable, just like Oolacile Township is warpable. So you might as well kindle this one too, because this is also the bonfire that'll take you to the final boss of the DLC. But we're not going to do that in this segment. This is part 1. I'm just going to pop some humanity, kindle this bonfire, and maybe level up, and then we'll move immediately into part 2 without really an introduction. So just go ahead, get your character ready. We're going to run through the next area, but we're not going to do the boss. And then we're also going to unlock a couple things, a couple more shortcuts. We're going to beat the dragon and talk to Hawkeye Goff and talk to Kieran and do all that before we do the boss battles.